Welcome back, everyone, to the IE427 garage. We are back on the 25th anniversary car. You can see I've already taken the wheels off the back, and what I'm working on today are the brake lines in the back. I don't want to take every piece off of a vehicle that's been started like this unless there's something wrong with it. And there was actually nothing wrong with the brake lines the way that the car owner had done these. The problem that I have with it is that the fittings weren't lubricated. And that's not necessarily wrong. Many people put brake fittings together dry and they don't have a leak. It's just been my experience that if you lube the threads and the end of the fitting where the double flare is on brake lines, and even brake hoses, when you're putting the AN brake lines, the soft brake lines together for the Wilwood brakes on these cars, a little bit of brake fluid on the fitting and on the threads goes a long way in enabling you to get the fittings tighter so they're less apt to leak. And so I'm not rebending any of the lines in the back. I'm just taking the fittings apart. I'm lubing the threads. I'm lubing the flares, and I'm putting them back together and making sure they're good and tight. I want as much of this car to be what the owner started. So, for instance, the owner of the 25th anniversary car here, Pauline, had gotten a really good start on this. He had the suspension already installed. He had it basically on the wheels and tires. I think he had a set of rollers similar to what I have here in the shop that he was moving around his garage or his shop with. But and the brake lines for the most part done. Where we ran into issue was in the front, where we had to remove some of the brake lines in order to fit the aluminum panels that make up the foot box. And so once those were kind of taken apart and I saw that in the front the fittings weren't tight, he had I think he had been working on them but didn't finish them, and so I just figured it'd be better to check them all, make sure that they were all nice and tight, they were lubed, and we're going to put them all back together. What we're going to work on after these brake lines are done, or if anything else in this video, I don't know right now. I'm kind of winging it because I've got Jim's Mk4 in here as well. Michael stopped by today, and his car, I think it's been postponed another week, but we'll be seeing his car probably next week. And then I don't know how soon after that the painted body for Michael's car is going to be ready. So we're going to be shuffling things around the shop and just kind of moving from one car to the other based upon what parts we have. So stay tuned, and we're going to dive right in. I'm going to get you up inside the back of the car and kind of show you what we're working with. So what we're going to do, this is the passenger side rear. We're going to go ahead, I've already got that fitting broken loose, and I'm just going to pull it back out of its fitting. That's actually an adapter that takes it to, what is that, AN3. And we're going to lube up the threads and we're going to tighten that back down. If you look up here, you can see it's already strapped. So the owner did a really good job of running this brake line up through. He probably did this. I'm thinking he probably did this before he did the rear end assembly. So it's strapped on this side as well. We're going to do the same thing over on this side. We're going to take it out of that fitting, and then we're just going to lube up the threads and tighten it all back down. And then the fitting that goes to the front, I've pulled down as well. I've got it loose right here. And then that'll be the last thing that we tie in. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go lube the threads and the fittings for the brake calipers as well. So where the stainless line comes into the caliper, there should be some crush sleeves on the back of that. Actually, the Willwoods, I think, have a fitting. Yeah, there's a fitting in back there. So we're going to lube that up. That's an AN fitting. And we're going to lube, like you saw, the transition where it goes from the AN to the double inverted flare up inside there. Alright, so I got all the brake lines squared away in the back. I went ahead and put some thread sealing on the fittings that go into the calipers because there was none. They were dry. And then I lubed up all of the AN fittings for the braided lines. Lubed up all the fittings for the double inverted flare lines on both sides. So that stuff is all good. I'll show you the rest of the brake lines as I move forward. But I wanted to show you, I went ahead and I put the strap up here. Let's see if I can get this thing in there a little bit better. Right here. Can you guys see that? Yeah. You can just see the double strap that I've got there on the fuel lines onto the chassis. So I got that done. So this portion is done. Probably tomorrow night what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll finish up the braided fuel lines on the back of the car, because I've got the fuel lines that I picked up at the hose shop to go from the end of those stainless steel hard lines up to the fuel filter and then back to the tank for the return. I'm still missing the fittings. You know, this supply chain stuff just sucks. I'm still missing the fittings. We're on our third manufacturer to get AN6 to 3/8 NPT. I should have just picked up the stainless ones at the hose shop when I was there, but we've gone to such great lengths to make all of the fittings black in this, even though those wouldn't be seen. We'll wait. We're only going to have to wait a couple more days. I think we ended up with some from, they're still from Summit Racing, but they're from Trick Flow. And they were like $1.50 more than either the Summit brand or the Russell that we had initially ordered. So those are on the way. So what I did over here is I went ahead and I started on strapping the brake lines to the chassis. So this line was actually already done by the car owner. He had gotten it all the way to this point here. So he had that strap in there. And he had a strap up on the back side up here. And I wanted to pull that line loose because two things. It was a little tight right here, right in here where it gets really close to one of these welded brackets onto the chassis right here. And so I wanted to give it just a little bit of wiggle room. I didn't want it resting right against there, even though the brake line shouldn't move. So I did that, and I had to pull it loose to get the brake line out of there to lube up the threads and the end of the fitting anyway. But I did go ahead and I got one more strap on the chassis here to get this held in place, because there was just some masking tape down on this end holding this fitting up. So the end of this just had some masking tape holding the end up, and I wanted to get that tape off of there. That blue tape, even though it's meant to not pull off paint or leave residue, if it stays on even the powder coat for a long enough time, it does leave adhesive residue, and that adhesive residue will attract dust, and we don't want that. So I wanted to get all the tape that was on here off. I wanted to get all that tape off as quickly as possible because I didn't want to have to deal with cleaning the residue off of this later. So what we'll probably do in the next couple days is we'll take the end of this fitting, we'll extend the line down and in through the bottom of the footbox over here, and then up inside we'll sneak behind where that accelerator pedal mount is. And we'll drill a hole on the top of it, probably somewhere close to that 3/4 inch. I don't know if you can see it. The back corner of the 3/4 inch bar coming down over here. The one coming down that the pedal box mounts to. And that'll get us up into the the top portion of the foot box. And I'll probably just leave that line long for now, and then figure out how we're going to get it over to the brake master cylinder that it ties into. But I want to get it into the foot box so I can finish strapping the lines to the bottom of the chassis here. On the other side, what I'm getting ready to do, and I'll probably do this tomorrow, is get all of the lines for the fuel strapped to the chassis. Right now I've got the wheels off the back, so I'm not going to be able to get to 2 of the straps. So I just figured once I get the wheels back on, I'll get the fuel lines done, or as far done as I can get them done, in the back, and then put the wheels back on the car, get it off the jack, because right now it's kind of in the way of the strap right there and the strap over here on the end. So I want to get the jack out of the way, and then I can get all 4 of these straps, 1, 2, 3, 4, done. I'm going to hold off on strapping the lines to the front of the foot box, because I haven't decided yet if maybe I'm going to take those and curve them back towards the firewall. And if I do that, I don't want them already strapped to the foot box. And I think I told you the Coyote fuse box goes up there, and then there is a mega fuse that mounts on the top of the passenger foot box. So strapping the fuel lines to the front of the foot box just doesn't make sense right now. So I'm going to hold off on that. Other than that, I will catch up with you guys tomorrow when I get a little farther along on these fuel lines, and catch you up then. Next evening, and I am back at it. Today I'm working on the fuel lines on the back of Pauline, and I think I've got everything as kind of as far as I can go on those. I'm still waiting on some AN6 to 3/8 adapters in black. Now, I think we got that order all straightened away with Summit, and we're going to see those tomorrow. I don't know. Could be tomorrow or Thursday, but we'll see how it goes. So what I did is I've got the hoses that I picked up at the hose shop. I had all these custom made. So we've got the AN6 ends onto our AN6 unions, which make up our hardline adapters. So we've got the return here on the outside, but we've got the supply on the inside. And there's a reason I did that, even though they have to cross here in the back, because the return is actually going to be on the inside right here, and the supply on the outside. But I want those fittings in the front going into the regulator to be in a specific position. And so I haven't decided if I'm going to take those tubes in the front and put a bend on them to kind of take them towards the regulator. But even if I don't, I want everything to kind of, make a gentle curve over to the fuel pressure regulator. So those are the 2 that are right here. And can you see those? Yeah, right here. So I'm more concerned about how they look under the hood than I am concerned how they look under the trunk floor. If they cross into the trunk floor, no big deal. So I'm working on that tonight. And then what I'm going to move on to after that is I'm going to put the back wheels back on the car, and then I am going to continue strapping the fuel lines across the 4-inch main tube right here all the way to the front, and get those all strapped up and all prettied up. So I'm going to check back in with you guys in just a little bit, and we'll see how those straps turned out. All right, got the straps on the fuel lines, and see if I can turn on a light. I guess you guys can see them. They are all done. So now they're pop riveted in along the bottom. And I think I may have shown you guys how I make these straps. They're actually 3/4 inch cushion clips, clamps, whatever you want to call them. And then I press these in the vise. I can do them on the press too. It just takes a little bit more effort because the press is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be cumbersome because it's, the press is so big. In the vise, it's actually pretty easy. Anyways, so once I get them strapped, then what I do is I take the wood handle on one of the hammers and I rest it against the top of the strap, and then I gently give it a couple of whacks with the dead blow hammer. And what that does is it bends the clips closer to the 4-inch tube. It just makes it cleaner. So as you look down the side of the 4-inch main tube, the lines just conform better to that once you get them to bend back towards the tube. So those are done. I'm going to head in for the evening and grab some supper. And probably tomorrow what I'm going to do is work on this brake line here. So I'm going to take this brake line, I'm going to extend it into the foot box, and then up in the back corner here behind the accelerator pedal, and up to the pedal box to the master cylinders. And then I don't know if I'm going to tie it in or not. I'm just going to get it up there. I actually have a pretty cool tool that I use that I can do double inverted flares on the car. It's a little handheld job, so I don't have to pull out the Eastwood flaring tool. But I haven't decided how I'm going to do that. That one's a little tough to get all of the bends in it and still be able to negotiate it into the foot box. So I'll probably just get it in there, and then I'll use the tubing bender to get it where I want it, and then I'll just flare the line at the end. But we'll see. So I'll catch up with you guys all tomorrow. Man, I had to turn off an awesome song by Chicago. Next night in the shop, I don't know if you guys like me being DJ or not, but I may have missed my calling. Working on the brake line on the passenger, scratch that. Working on the brake line on the driver's side. And I think last night I showed you how I got everything strapped up in the back of the car and kind of halfway down on the driver's side. Today I picked up from there, and then I went ahead and I got the line in and up into the foot box. So let me turn you guys around here. And then, so I've got another strap right there. And then here you can see the union that is at the end of the 60-inch piece that is supplied by Factory 5. And then what I did, I've got a strap here in the front, and then I drilled a hole in the bottom of the foot box to get that line up and through. I've got a grommet in there. I think you can see the grommet. And then I've got a little offset in the line. That offset gets it closer to the 4-inch tube, and then I've got a little kick in it to bring it up level with the rest of it. Because this side actually has to drop down a little bit unless you want to drill a huge hole in the bottom of the foot box. So that's done. These fittings are all tight. I went ahead and lubed those up with brake fluid. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off the excess here. And then up inside the foot box, you can see again, I did a little offset on the brake line. And then I've got a single cushion clip pop riveted in. And then that line goes up into the top of the bracket for the accelerator pedal. And again, there's another hole drilled with another grommet. You can go around that accelerator bracket. There's nothing saying that you have to do it the way I do. But what I'm trying to stay away from is running that brake line right next to the headers, which are going to be right in here. So the headers are going to come right below the steering shaft here and out. And that brake line would have been running right along here. And that, I just think it's way too much heat. This way, we'll have sound and heat mat on the inside of the foot box. And that, along with the carpet, is going to shield this line from getting too much heat. What we'll do is we'll go ahead probably tomorrow and we'll take this line and we'll 90 it back towards the back of the car, and then we'll route it back over here to the master cylinders. So another tip is on the top of the brake line right there, see that little white dot? That's a vacuum cap. As soon as I cut off the end of that line, which had a flare on it, and it had a flare nut, I went ahead and I put a vacuum line on it just so I wouldn't get garbage in there. So I did have to take it off to thread it through the two grommets, but as soon as I pushed it through that upper grommet that goes at the top of the accelerator bracket, I went ahead and I put that vacuum cap back on so that I wouldn't have any issues with getting any garbage in there. And it actually aids in getting that line up because this foot box is angled back here, and so that brake line wants to hit that as it's going up. And you can see where the clutch cable for the stock Mustang pedal box is, that welded in little circular piece, it wants to hit that too. So that vacuum cap kind of just helps guide it in place. And then we'll fart around with it in the foot box and try to get it tucked off to one side and then over into our master cylinders. But I think we're going to do that tomorrow. We'll see how things go. It is, of course, time for supper, and I can't miss my evening feeding. So I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. All right, everybody, next day. I am working on the 25th anniversary car, and I've just about got the brakes all wrapped up. The only thing we're going to be waiting on are reservoirs. We're hunting down some good-looking reservoirs that are going to fit under the hood, that we're going to be able to do a triple reservoir. And so I think we've got it narrowed down, and hopefully we'll have those in the next week. But I'm going to move on, and I'll probably be working on some more sheet metal, some cockpit aluminum, maybe the firewall forward, stuff like that. But I'm probably going to wrap the video up after this. So I just wanted to show you what I got done. I got everything done in the foot box, and I got the front brakes all wrapped up. So let me turn you around here, and we'll show you what I got going in the front. I just was trying to get everything tucked away so that we weren't going to have the brake lines really protruding a whole lot into the engine bay. Before, I don't know if I showed you, but this line, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, a lot of times the guys that are building these or start the builds on these, they've never built a car before, and so they don't know how much room that engine's going to take up and what's going to have to be moved or put aside just so that the engine fits. And that Coyote engine is huge. So I know that this is going to have to come out because we're going to need clearance back there where the steering shaft is as we're lowering the motor in. So I wanted to make sure that we were going to have as much clearance out here in front as we could. And the way Factory 5 designs this whole assembly up here using this T, it has a male threaded double inverted flare on this end of it, which means this side sticks straight out. And so with that, it's kind of tough not to have this kind of, point towards the engine as you're putting it all together. I could have done it a little bit differently. I could have done it like I did on Ed and Kathy's car, where I just eliminated this and ended up with another piece of brake line in here. But I'm trying to reuse as much of what was done previously by the car owner, because I still want this to be his car, and I want him to remember the things that he did on the car as the build progressed in the very beginning. So I'm trying to keep as many of the components as I could. So this line here, he did initially. I left it. The only thing left to do there is to strap it across the cross member here. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how I strapped it to the chassis. And what I try to do is I try to keep it as inconspicuous as possible. So you can see right here, I kind of made it the same angle that this F panel is going to be, going back this way. And then I did a little offset and a kick to bring it on the back side of this 3/4 inch tube, which actually puts it in a really good spot over in the foot box. I've got it strapped here and I've got it strapped here. I want you guys to know that you don't necessarily need to strap these with the bubble side of the cushion clip facing up. So as you can see, this one's off the edge, but the bubble side is face down. So the top of this tube is actually flush with the top of the 3/4 inch tube that it's next to. So those are fixed. These are something you can drill out. If you ever had to replace this line, you could drill it out here, you could drill it out here, you could disconnect it here. It wouldn't be pretty, but you could get it out. But back here in the inside of the foot box, what I did is I drilled and tapped it for a 1/4 and I made it a Allen head cap head screw, because I thought that that was going to be the easiest to access through here. So remember, the access panel's up here, and so to reach back in here with a single tool, there's going to be enough room to get an Allen wrench on this and pull this out if it needs to come out. So I'm always trying to think ahead to figure out what the best way is going to be if this ever has to be repaired or fixed. So that's done. We've got the rear brake lines tied into the master here. I did what I think is a really good job of keeping this parallel with the footbox aluminum right here, and then out of the way so that we could get the other line from the front in. You really want to keep the front here clear, because we're going to have 1, 2, 3 tubes that go through the front firewall of the footbox and are going to have to go into those reservoirs. So we want those to be as much of a straight shot as we can. They're either going to go through this hole or they're going to go through this hole. And I haven't decided which. Most likely they'll go through here, because I think I'll have an easier time sealing this up. This is one of the clutch holes that is kind of pre-punched in the foot box. This one, the way Factory 5 has it configured, is actually for the wiring. So the Ron Francis wiring harness fits right in there. They've got a grommet that fits right in that hole. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let that be the hole. If I have to, I can always use the other clutch hole, which is over on this side. That's set up for the Mustang pedal box. But trying to fit those 3 hoses through this one hole right here, I'm not sure that it's going to all fit through there. So we'll see how that works out. I think I'm going to end the video here, because I'm going to spend a little bit of time this afternoon cleaning up the shop. I've got just tools everywhere from doing the brake lines, and I don't want to continue to step over and have to move tools around. So I think I'm going to take some time, probably the next hour or two, clean up the shop, get everything kind of put away, and then I will probably start on the firewall, and you guys will probably see that in the next video. So as always, I want to thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the content, do the like, the share, the subscribe, and all that. And we will see you all next time. Have a great day.